I'm Christy and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm here to give you some queer romance recs. Alright, so I'm so excited to be doing this video today. I think that it's so important to read diversely, honestly, all year round, but I thought for Pride Month it'd be fun to do some queer romance recs. I feel like the more people in the world who can see themselves represented through any form of media, honestly, but especially romance books, is like so important and just like everything. I feel like the more books you read, the more shows you watch, the more media that you consume, just any of those things, like the more that you read and listen and watch things that are kind of outside of your own lived experiences, like the better person you're gonna be, the better place the world would be if we were all more accepting and had empathy for others and just understood things that are outside of our own kind of lived experiences. Anyways, so let's just get into it. So I recently did a post on my Instagram with a bunch of queer romance recs, and so I want to be able to cram as many as I can in this video without like going into too much depth or detail of the books. So this is going to be like a really quick, speedy format where I'm going to tell you the book, tell you kind of the representation in it, and just kind of like quickly go through it like super fast. Most of these I've read. I think there's only maybe like 4 or 5 that I haven't read on this list. So if I haven't read them, I'll definitely tell you when I get to them. But otherwise, if you want to see more about the book, more of my thoughts, my full reviews on any of these books, I do review every book that I read on Goodreads, which you can always get to that through the links in the description of all of my videos. So with that out of the way, let's quickly get into these books because I have, I think, over 40 for sure, maybe close to 50 that I want to talk about. All right, so I'm going to be going off of my graphic that I created for Instagram, which if you're not following me there, definitely go do that. I post so many more recs and just book content like every single day over there. So definitely go follow me on Instagram if you're not already. But yeah, so let's get into it. So, all right, so first up is The Fiancé Farce by Alexandria Bellefleur. This author, actually all of her romances, all of her books have LGBTQ plus rep in them. So I love that. So anyways, this one is a sapphic romance. This one has a fake kind of engagement situation, which is so much fun. This one I have read, so if you want to see the review, like I said, it's on my Goodreads. Next up is Everyone I Kissed Since You Got Famous by May Marvel. So this one's actually a new release. I think it comes out in maybe mid to end of June. This one's actually, I haven't read it yet, but I do have an audio ALC on my phone that I need to get to probably tonight, actually. Can't wait to get to this one. This one has sapphic romance rep, and I can't wait. I think this one is friends to lovers, and I believe they grew up in the same small town, possibly. One of them went on and got famous. Now they're back, and it kind of goes from there. Next up is Late Bloomer by Maisie Eddings. So this one is a sapphic romance, and this one we have 2 heroines. One of them has won the lottery. She has a ton of money coming in. A bunch of people are trying to kind of get money from her, and she's one of those like nice people who just like says yes to everybody and gives them what they want. So to hold herself back, she's like, let me tie up the money in this failing flower farm so nobody can ask for money from me. She does that, gets there, she's like, I'm the new owner. The other heroine steps in, is like, no, excuse me, I actually own this place. So it kind of goes from there. Next is Here We Go Again by Allison Cochran. This is one of my favorite new sapphic romances. I just read this one in May, loved it so much. This one includes a road trip, and here the heroines were childhood kind of friends, best friends, turned enemies, like something tore them apart when they were teens. They were separate for a long time, a good amount of years, and now they're back in the same place. They are working at the same school, and they get asked by this father figure of theirs, like a former teacher who they had a really close relationship. He's actually passing away, he's dying, and so he wants to go on one last road trip with them in the car from like the West Coast all the way to Maine on the East Coast. So it's a road trip adventure, very emotional, heavier on the content here because there is a death on page, so just know that going in. Definitely check content warnings if you need to, but like I said, it's one of my favorite new sapphic romances. Highly recommend. Next is For Her Consideration by Amy Spalding. So this one's sapphic romance. This one is kind of Hollywood celebrity vibes. I did read this one and it was a fun audiobook. So yeah, that's that one. Then we have Irish Kelly Doesn't Date by Ashley Herring Blake. All the books in this series are actually all sapphic romances. They also have a bisexual rep as well, which I love. I love the whole series. So this one is super fun. It has 2 heroines. One of them is a romance author, and she's a new author. Her first book like went so well, but now she's struggling with book 2. And so she decides to take a break and goes to a bar, and she ends up meeting the other heroine there. They kind of hit it off and end up going home together, or they plan to, but the other heroine gets sick, and so they go their separate ways. And then a little bit later, they end up meeting when they're both at this like Shakespeare play that they're trying out for, and the other heroine who had gotten sick, all of her friends and her ex is there, and they assumed they did hook up that night. So she's like, can you just like play along and pretend we are dating? So it's fake dating. So much fun, because then the heroine Iris is like, yeah, I'll go along with it because maybe this will help me with my romance book, as well as like I'm kind of into her. So much fun. Really enjoyed this one. Next is Cleat Cute by Meryl Wilsner. I did read this one. This one is sapphic and soccer romance. Didn't super love it, but like it had good bones, if that makes sense. But this one does have a super cute cover and maybe it will work for you. So yeah, definitely check it out. Next is The Perks of Loving a Wallflower by Erica Ridley. This is one of my favorite Sapphic historical romances. This exists in her Wild Winchester series, which is basically like this kind of found family, adopted siblings, who they all kind of do different things. So like one of them is kind of like a thief or a counterfeit, and they kind of like solve crimes or like mysteries and things happening. And one of them has like disguises and kind of like does maps, and like they just break into places and like help people out who are less fortunate. So much fun. Love this one so much. Like such a good Sapphic historical. Highly, highly recommend. Another Sapphic romance is A French Fling by Emily Silver. This one I absolutely loved. This one's on the shorter side. I believe it's a novella. Basically, this is kind of like a tourist slash travel romance where it's basically just supposed to be a fling in Paris in France. But of course, you know, more feelings get involved. Really enjoyed this one. Another Sapphic historical romance is An Island Princess Starts a Scandal by Adriana Herrera. Absolutely loved this one so much. This one is actually set in Paris as well. And so the heroine in here, she's kind of just like come to terms with the fact that she's gonna have to like go and get married after. So she just wants like one last fun time in Paris before that. And so she ends up meeting the other heroine who is a little bit older, and it kind of goes from there. Really love this one. The audio is super good. Another Sapphic romance is Tryst 6 Venom by Penelope Douglas. So this one is bully romance and it's new adult. So just know that going in. I really enjoyed this one. I love Penelope Douglas books. So yeah, this one was good. Love the audio of this one as well. Next is Outdrawn by Deanna Gray. So this one I actually haven't read yet. This is a Sapphic romance and I believe it is like rivals or enemies to lovers. I've heard great things about it. I know a few friends said that it's like one of their new favorites, so I can't wait to get to it. Then we have Serpentine Valentine by Gianna Darling. So this is a Sapphic romance. This is a darker Medusa retelling, so it has a revenge plot. It's dark academia. It's really, really good. Definitely check the content warnings for this one because it does deal with darker themes of an assault that happens on the page, as well as a bunch of other characters in the story who have also had assaults happen to them, and like the college or the university is trying to like cover it up or pretend it didn't happen or victim blame. So it does handle that a lot throughout the book. So it's heavier, but it is just so good. Loved it so much. Gianna Darling's first Sapphic romance, and I highly recommend. So another Sapphic historical romance. This one's actually on my TBR. So this is Don't Want You Like a Best Friend by Emma R. Albin. This one I want to get to. I've heard it's pretty cute, and it is Sapphic historical. I know there's an audiobook. I can't wait to check it out. Then we have Written in the Stars by Alexandria Belfour. Like I said, all of this author's books have LGBTQ plus rep in them, which I absolutely love. This one is a Sapphic romance, and in here it is a Pride and Prejudice retelling, and it is so much fun. So one of the heroines is like kind of this like grumpy, kind of stoic mathematician, and the other one is a very like free-spirited, she does astrology on social media. So they end up having to fake date because one of the heroine's brothers is like pushing for her to get into a relationship in like a good way, like he means well. And so she's like, okay, can I just like appease my brother and say that our date went well and pretend we're dating? And so it kind of goes from there. I really enjoyed this one. Like the whole series is so, so good. Another Sapphic historical romance is The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics by Olivia Watt. This one I absolutely loved so much. One of my favorites. It is such a good Sapphic historical romance. This one I believe it's age gap as well, possibly with one of the heroines. I think she's like a countess. I believe she's older. This one has a lot to do with science and like obviously like the whole celestial mechanics thing, like astronomy and things, which I really, really enjoyed. I know this author writes a ton of Sapphic romances. I need to read the rest in the series, but this one I really enjoyed. All right, and then a Sapphic romance on my TBR is On the Same Page by Hallie Cass. This one I've heard great things about. I need to give it a try. I've heard great things about this author's books in general from a few friends, and so I'm very excited to try this one out. I believe this one's set in college where the two heroines, I think they're friends, and then obviously it turns into more, so I can't wait to try it out. All right, and then some romances with bisexual representation. So first up is Truly Madly Deeply by Alexandria Belfour. This is one of my new favorites from this author. Like I said, I love all of her books so much, but this one is definitely a favorite. So in this one we have a heroine who is a historical romance author, which I absolutely loved, and basically she's invited on a podcast to kind of give relationship and romance advice because obviously, you know, she knows everything about HEAs, and so she's kind of paired up with this divorce lawyer hero, and so they have like opposing sides, and basically the heroine's life just kind of got turned upside down the day prior. Like her fiance, she caught cheating on her, like her parents' 30+ year marriage, they are telling her they're going on a break, and so like her like expectations and ideas for love has just kind of been shaken. Her and the hero end up kind of bantering, and then kind of he hurts her feelings on the podcast. They go their separate ways. She's like, I don't want anything to do with that guy. He feels super bad. He's like a cinnamon roll nerdy hero and wants to make it up to her, and so he goes out of his way to track her down and find her, apologize, and then they become friends. So good. Really love this one. Another one with bi rep is Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. So this one's actually a YA contemporary romance, and it is so cute and fun. I feel like Talia Hibbert needs to write more YA because this one was just everything and so good. And here we have the hero and the heroine, and basically they were friends growing up and then they kind of went separate ways, and now they are back together because I think of like a competition or something they're both competing in for school, and it goes from there. Really enjoyed this one, the audiobook especially, so good. Another one with By Rep is The Portrait of a Duchess by Scarlett Peckham. So this is a historical romance, and in here we have the hero and heroine. The hero actually has a boyfriend, like he has a lover who kind of gets involved with the heroine as well in a scene, so that happens on page as well. But basically this is like a second chance where I think it's like Marriage in Trouble, I want to say, where they have to like make it work. So yeah, historical romance, By Rep. Another one with By Rep is Delilah Green It Doesn't Care. So this is a sapphic romance, but one of the heroines is bi in here, and this one is so good. It's my favorite in the series. I love this whole series so much. Like I said, they're all sapphic romances. This one though is my favorite. I loved it so much. Basically in here we have like a grumpy heroine, and then we have a heroine who is kind of raising her child with her ex, trying to make that work. It's very complicated, and she knows the other heroine because she is best friends with her like stepsister. And so the one grumpier heroine had actually always crushed on the other heroine when they were like in high school and stuff. They are back in the small town and now they're grown up, and it kind of goes from there. I love this one so much. All right, another one with By Rep is Hang the Moon by Alexandria Belfleur. So in this one we have the hero and the heroine, and the hero is like this hopeless romantic. He even built like I think like a dating app or something like that, and so he just loves a romance. And then his sister's best friend is the heroine, and she ends up coming to town to surprise her best friend, but when she gets there her best friend is not there, but her brother is. And so he's like, well, I can show you like all the most wonderful things about Seattle. So it's kind of like a love story to Seattle as well. And so he takes her on all of these really cute dates because he finds out that she thinks romance is dead, and he's like, excuse me, like not on my watch. So he goes out to prove to her that romance is real, and just goes and takes her on all of these like really cute, like very rom-com style dates. So much fun. He's an ultimate cinnamon roll. Love this one so much, and like I said, it has By Rep in it. Another sapphic romance with By Rep is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. This one I absolutely loved. It involves time travel as well. This one I did the audio of and really loved it, so definitely check it out if you haven't yet. Another one with By Rep is Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is part of her Brown Sisters kind of series. I love all the books in the series so much. And here we have a very like cinnamon roll type hero, and the heroine is a little bit more prickly, and it ends up being their romance. Like I said, it has By Rep. Definitely check out this series if you haven't. All right, another one with By Rep. So the hero and the heroine both are bisexual in here. This is Zinni by Rebecca Weatherspoon. Absolutely love this. This is one of my favorite reads. I love it so much. It's so good. It's like a marriage of convenience and a contemporary, and basically has like the best amount of communication where they just like lay it all out and talk to each other. It's so good. Gets kinky, gets steamy. Highly recommend this one. All right, next up is some romances. So we have The Queer Principles of Kit Webb by Kat Sebastian. This author writes a ton of LGBTQ plus rep romances, and this one's super cute. I did the audio of it. It's a historical romance. Next we have Ravensong by TJ Klune. So this is an series of paranormal wolf shifters. This one is one of my favorites in the series. So good. Second chance. Really enjoyed this one. All right, another romance is Gravity by Tal Bauer. So this is a hockey romance. I really enjoyed this one. This author does really good like character driven stories. So good. Very low angst and just like such a fun time. Basically in here we have two heroes, and they both play hockey, and one of them is like the other hero's like kind of crush slash idol in the game. And so they're both in the same town. I think they're like in Las Vegas for a competition, and they end up playing on the same team, kind of like an all-star type setting, and they play together and they get along really well. And so they have like a little fling, and then they go their separate ways and miss each other, and it goes from there. Next is What We Broke by Marley Valentine. This one is so emotional. This author writes a ton of romances, usually with bisexual like awakening happening as well, but this one is actually a marriage in trouble kind of second chance romance. Definitely some heavier emotional content, so check content warnings if you need it. I love this one so much. Next is A Thief in the Night by KJ Charles. This one actually I think it has like an Audible original as well. I know I listened to the audiobook through there, but it also has an ebook now. It's a novella length, and it's a historical romance. Basically in here we have the two heroes. They end up meeting and hooking up and sharing a night, and then one of the heroes ends up actually stealing from the other hero. So he takes like his pocketbook and he takes his watch and he flees in the night, where we cut to a little bit later, and so they kind of didn't like share their identities or anything. And so the one hero who got robbed, he ends up going because he like just inherited like a house or a title or something like that. Anyways, he gets there and he's kind of meeting his new staff, and the hero who robbed him is there kind of posing as a member of his household staff. And so he's like, excuse me, what? Like, what is happening here? And so he's like, yeah, you're gonna work for me to like pay off what you stole from me. Goes from there. It's a novella, really cute, low angst, and a historical. Another novella is Meet Cute Club by Jack Harbin. I read this one years ago when it came out, and this one is just so cute and fun, especially around like book lovers. So yeah, like a really cute like romance book club. highly recommend. Another MM romance is Garen Park by Nordica Knight. So this one is MM and kind of like rivals slash enemies to lovers setup. It has forced proximity where the two heroes, I think they are like motocross racers, dirt bike racers, I can't remember, but anyways, they do something like that, and they are living in the same kind of a neighborhood or trailer park, and they have this like animosity, but they end up having to share a night and have like forced proximity, sharing a bed, and some things happen and they start having feelings for one another while they still hate one another, and it kind of goes from there. Another MM romance is Something Wild and Wonderful by Anita Kelly. This one, I believe they're going like on a kind of like backpacking slash hiking type, get out in nature type adventure thing, and it's an MM romance, really sweet and cute. All right, then we have Iced Out by C.E. Ricky. This is an MM romance. This is true enemies to lovers hockey setup where the two heroes played hockey in high school together, hated one another, and then they end up going to college and now they're on the same hockey team, and so they have to kind of get along slash they don't get along, but then at a party one night they end up kind of having a moment, and then after that their team starts winning, and so one of the heroes is like, hey, hockey superstitions, like that worked, we need to keep doing that. So it's like enemies with benefits, and it's so good. One of my favorite hockey romances. I loved this one last year. I highly recommend. All right, next up are two from Mila Finelli. So first up we have Mafia Target. This is part of her Kings of Italy, Mafia set in Italy romance series. So this is the full-length book. And we also have Mafia Devil, which is an MM novella, part of the series as well. These two kind of like interconnect, as you'll see both kind of sets of couples in each of the books. So yeah, one's a full-length book, one's a novella. They're both part of the same Mafia romance series. All right, next up we have The Secret Lives of Country Gentlemen by KJ Charles. This author writes a ton of historical romances, and most I think are MM. This one is just very low angst and cute and sweet. And yeah, the cover, like for whatever reason, just always pulls me in. Next is Divine River by Marina Vivancos, and this one is an MM romance, and it's a very low angst and sweet and small town, and I think it's like a novella, very character driven with not a ton of plot, but that's kind of what this author writes a ton of. So yeah, MM novella. All right, next up is Head Above Water by C.E. Ricky. So this author, just like Marley Valentine, they have a ton of MM romances, and usually with like bisexual awakening happening as well for one of the characters. So this is the one, I've read a ton by this author. I believe this is the one where they are stepbrothers and they had some moments in the past and now they're brought back together because of their families. Something happens with their family, so they're now pulled back together and have to like confront their feelings. I believe so. I read this one a couple years ago, so I think that's right though. Another MM romance is You Should Be So Lucky by Kat Sebastian. So this is a newer release from this author. I can't wait to read this one. This one's on my TBR. So this one is a baseball romance. It's a historical setting. I think it takes place in the 1950s, 1960s. I can't wait to check it out. It looks so cute and fun. I'm just waiting for my audiobook from Libby to come in. All right, next, another MM romance is Saint by Sierra Simone. This one is so good. So this is part of her Bell Brothers series. So the first book is Priest. That one's actually my least favorite in the series, but Sinner and Saint are so good. Saint is so angsty and piney, and this whole series kind of deals with religious kind of trauma and recovery as well. So just know that going in. This one is so good though. Another MM romance by Jack Harbin is Crimes of Passion. This one is actually, I did it on Audible original, but I think it has an ebook now as well. I believe it's shorter, like a novella length. This one was a lot of fun. So basically in here, the heroes have like two podcasts and they end up kind of coming on and being on the same podcast together, and it kind of goes from there. All right, next up is How You Get the Girl by Anita Kelly. So this one is a sapphic romance, but it also has ace rep. In this one as well, we have like a high school kind of basketball situation where one of the heroines is a coach for the high school basketball team, and the other heroine is like the foster parent of a player on the basketball team, and so it kind of goes from there. All right, another one on my TBR is The Prospects by KT Hoffman. So this one actually came out recently, and this one is baseball romance and has trans rep as well, and I can't wait to check this one out. I've heard great things. All right, so another one from Anita Kelly. This one is Love and Other Disasters. I really enjoyed this one. This one was kind of like low angst and kind of more chill. It focuses around like a food kind of competition show. And in here we have a character who is non-binary. A historical romance with trans rep is A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. Absolutely love this one of my favorite historical romances. It kind of has like Beauty and the Beast vibes, where basically the heroine and the hero, they grew up together, they were childhood friends, and now they're back in one another's lives, and the hero is kind of scarred from war, and he thinks his friend has died in war, and so now the heroine is back in his life. Goes from there. It is so good, so emotional and more like character driven, but I absolutely love this one. All right, one that is on my TBR by Kat Sebastian is Unmasked by the Marquess. So this one actually has a non-binary character from what I've heard. I've heard kind of mixed reviews, but I kind of want to give it a try anyways. So yeah, that is on my TBR. Then we have Any Duke and a Storm by Amelie Howard. I loved this one earlier this year. I read it in January when it came out. So this is part of her Daring Duke series, which the whole series is very like diverse. It has diverse kind of representations of characters, their backgrounds, and also different settings. Like we are not in ballrooms, we're kind of on the high seas, which I really enjoyed. So in here we have demi and pansexual representation for the heroine. So basically in here the heroine is a countess, but she has been posing as this undercover like badass captain pirate, and so she's trying to like infiltrate this smuggling ring, and so that's how she ends up meeting the hero. It goes from there. The heroine is the more like dom in their situation. There's a lot of like good boy times. Like I said, it's set on sea, pirates, smuggling, so fun. And then we have The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. I read this one quite a few years ago when it came out. So this one is an MM romance. It also has a demisexual representation as well for one of the characters. This one I believe is like kind of like a Bachelor style thing as far as I remember. I think one of them is like a contestant on the show and one of them is like the producer. I believe it's been a few years though. All right, and then lastly I have Role Playing by Kathy Yardley. This one's actually on my TBR, but this one has demisexual representation. I heard good things about this one, that it's more kind of like low angst and chill, and I believe both of the characters in here are over 40. I think this one's on KU with like the read and listen feature, so you can get the audiobook as well. So I definitely want to check this one out soon. All right, so I think that's just about 50 queer romance recs for you today. So hopefully that was plenty to give you like options of books to pick up. I know that I'm one who always wants like recommendation videos or posts that have a ton of options because I read a lot. So most of the time, all the books that are on there, like I've usually read. So I want like a good variety, a lot of options to pick from and have something new to check out. So hopefully this worked for you today and you have some new books to check out for yourself as well. If you have any queer romance recs that I didn't talk about in this video, definitely drop them in the comments. Let me know all of the recommendations for others to pick up as well, because I'm always in the mood for more romance recs. If you'd rather leave me an emoji in the comments instead today, let me know that you watched this video. Leave me the rainbow emoji. I think that's pretty self-explanatory for Pride Month. So yeah, if you haven't done so yet, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, and I'll see you in my next one.